What is up, guys? It is JZNES back again with another video here. Today we are talking about Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Genesis there. A really fucking underrated Castlevania game, in my opinion. Like, geez, like, man, nobody ever talks about this one. They always just say, oh yeah, that one that's like not Castlevania 4 or Symphony of the Night or whatever. And it's like, no, man, this is like a really good Castlevania game. I actually prefer this to Castlevania 4. I felt Castlevania 4 had a lot of problems. You can go back and watch my review of that to kind of figure out what I'm talking about there. But there was a lot of like platforming bullshit and like enemy placement bullshit. This is like a straightforward just Castlevania game. You know, you get in and you get out. There's 6 stages and they're all separate levels or whatever. They're all separated by little stages, or those are called the levels or whatever. There's all different little parts. It feels like a classic Castlevania game, you know, right? Whereas like Castlevania 4 feels like it's like going above and beyond and trying to be something bolder, and they're trying to do a lot more. It's trying to be the Super Metroid of Castlevania, where this is like there's not really a good example of that. Obviously Metroid was a Nintendo franchise, so you can't really, this is like the Metroid Zero Mission or Fusion or something. I don't want to say Fusion because I know that one's like really well loved or whatever, but is this the Metroid 2? No, I'm just kidding. That would be Castlevania 2 is the Metroid 2. I don't know. This is just like, this is a really good Castlevania game though. It has everything you kind of want. You have an option at the beginning to play between one of the guys and the other guy. One of them's got like a spear or whatever. This game takes place in like 1917, so it's like way after all of the other ones. One of the guy has a spear and one of them's got a whip, and it's interesting because there's like actually a level where you go into this Nazi facility, and like it doesn't say that specifically, but it's like very obvious that that's what this place is. And there's like skeletons and whatnot, and it's like, huh, this is kind of fucked up, isn't it? Obviously, we weren't to the point of where that was, like, a thing yet, but, like, man, like, it's pretty crazy. Kind of crazy. Anyway, so, yeah, and this takes place all across, like, Europe, so they'll take you to, like, France and, like, Germany and stuff, so it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. It kind of goes all across to get some famous landmarks and whatnot, and so that's interesting. So it's a more grounded Castlevania in the reality of reality, except it's like not, you know what I mean, it just takes place in our world rather than like in Castlevania or whatever. But you're basically in like castle-like areas the whole time, so it definitely feels like a Castlevania game, and I like that. I do like the visuals of this game a lot. I think they're very impressive, especially for the Sega Genesis. A lot of cool effects, a lot of like Mode 7 looking stuff. I know Sega Genesis probably didn't have like Mode 7, but it's blast processing, right, or whatever, like, but seriously, like, some of the backgrounds and stuff look really nice in this game, and just graphically it all looks very nice. There's a lot of good effects, like explosions and whatnot, and like when you hit an enemy it really feels satisfying, so I think that's really cool. I went with the guy who has the whip, basically, just because I wanted to kind of play it in that classic Castlevania style. I kind of thought about the other guy, but then I looked it up online, and they're like, yeah, the whip guy's like the more authentic experience. It's kind of what the game was designed around, so that's cool. They do a few like things where there's these like long gaps where you'll fall into like a bottomless pit or whatever, and you can like swing from the ceiling, just kind of like tied to anything, even like in the other game there was like hooks or whatever, I think, something like that, but this one you can just kind of swing anywhere. The mechanics like okay, it's kind of difficult to like latch onto a certain spot and like swing over, but you don't do it that very often. Another thing about this game is it's really short anyway. I think there's like some kind of limited continue system or something. I don't know. I was like obviously save stating or whatever, which obviously made the game probably a lot easier, but it was very enjoyable, and that's what I'm getting at here, is that, and there's a password system in the game, so even if there was some kind of bullshit difficulty thing, all you'd have to do is go back and put in the password, and there you go, you're at that stage. So, it is like a slightly easier Castlevania, in my opinion. I think what's cool is I don't know. I just really like the game overall. Some cool stuff that I like about the game is like Death. When you get to him, you always have to fight Death, right? So he's like in the final dungeon. The whole story is like this lady, this countess, is trying to revive Dracula or whatever. So it's kind of Zelda 2-esque or even Simon's Quest-esque in that regard. But so you fight her at the end, and you think, oh, this is the final boss, and then no, then you gotta fight Death, and it's like, or you fight Death before her. So it's okay, like, so you fight Death, and then it's funny because he has these little cards around him, and they show one of the bosses from each, like, all the bosses throughout the game, because there's 6 stages, there's like 7 cards, he's like one of the cards or whatever, so if you hit him, he'll just like shoot down and attack at you or whatever. It really ends up you all have to like refight 3 of the bosses, but they're like easier, like they'll take more damage whenever you actually hit their weak spot or whatever. So that's kind of cool. I like that. It's like a boss fight within a boss fight. And they don't really refill your health in between, which is kind of also a problem if you're not like save stating or like you don't have a bunch of extra lives or whatever, which the game doesn't really... I saw 1 extra 1-up like in my path throughout the whole game, so... But yeah, so that's cool. But then you fight the lady, and she's got like these like little ball things that it'll tell you like which attack she's gonna use basically. And you have to hit her that many times to like be able to move on to the next one. But what I figured out was you have to just hit her after you hit her all those times before the attack goes off, and that's how you damage her. And I didn't know that before, and so I got hit by these like attacks like half the time, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? Even though I was like doing damage to her, I just didn't realize how you were supposed to do that. So it's interesting. But then you go to the, like, it's not over. You walk to the next room, you see a staircase, you're like, oh fuck, I guess I gotta fight Dracula. So you go up and you climb and you fight Dracula, right? I guess like spoilers for Castlevania Bloodlines, just go play it. It's like 6 levels. It's great. It's a good game. It uses some emulation. You can save state stuff. That's fun. Alright. So you go and fight Dracula. And it's kind of like the typical fight from the NES game, like the first NES game. And then he evolves into the form from the second NES game. So they're like making the Simon's Quest like weird looking Dracula thing kind of like canon. He's like more of a like a cloaked thing, you know, like that's cool. And then they the third form is like the Cookie Monster form from the original game, you know, the very final boss in that game. And so that's pretty cool. It actually, it kind of looks like, I think the one in the third game as well. So my point is, this is kind of like the real Castlevania 4. Sorry, Castlevania 4 fans, but like this is it. Like they pay a lot of homage to the older games. They have like Bloody Tears in there. I guess what game doesn't these days, right? But it just feels like the next extension to those older games. And whereas I do miss the whipping in all of the directions and stuff, like seamlessly and all of that, in this game you can only kind of whip diagonally when you jump. So you kind of have to jump and whip at the same time. And so, I mean, you do that in a lot of Castlevania games, but the control isn't quite as, like, fluent, I would say, as, like, Castlevania 4. But I actually kind of still prefer these original style controls to the Castlevania 4 controls. So, I don't know. That's just me. I know I'm the weird one of all of this, because everyone's like, oh, Castlevania 4 controls, like, perfectly. And I'm like, not really. Not to me, anyway. You know, I think it's just the Super Nintendo controller, man. I don't know what it is. But, of course, I used my PS4 controller for this one, so I could kind of map the buttons. So that helps a lot, too. You know, that's nice. Yeah. So, but, pretty much everything about this game was good. Like, the music and whatnot was good. You know, it's Castlevania. You gotta have good music. The aesthetic was cool. I liked that. Just all the levels were, like, they had cool little gimmicks, like, you know, all the typical stuff. You know, you have to run through the level. There was a level where, like, the water was rising, like, all the time. So it's kind of like the old levels where the screen would just, like, come up towards you or whatever. But there's a boss fight where you have to like beat the boss within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you'll be drowned in the water. So you have to hit him back and forth, back and forth. It's cool. And in this game, like, there's a boss, but then there's like always another boss. So there's like mini bosses, but then it's like it's almost like you fight a gauntlet of bosses. There's like one or two, or at least one or two, and then sometimes there's like 3 bosses. It gets intense, but it's cool though. So yeah, what was I gonna say? There was something I was gonna bring up though. I don't remember. Oh yeah, also there's no time limit in the levels, and I very much appreciate that. You can just kind of take your time. And not that the levels are super long or anything, but I always hated in Castlevania when you get to the time limit, and then that's what killed you. It's like, come on, fuck that, dude. Like, so no time limit, and that means at the end, when you can go up the stairs, grind all of your ammo. I should have grinded more ammo, honestly, for Dracula, but it was a fun fight. You know, like, even with save states, it's like fairly challenging, but like, it's not quite as hard as some of the other Castlevania games, in my opinion. I think that's refreshing for these games, because sometimes hard in Castlevania is just like, we're gonna throw this bullshit thing at you that you like, it's just stupid and bad, and so you know, this game didn't have a lot of that, and I very much appreciate this game for that. And it might sound like I'm like just kind of glossing over the whole thing, like there's not a lot to talk about in the levels or whatever, but it's just a standard Castlevania stuff, you know? So if you played a Castlevania game before, you're kind of going to know what to expect here. Yeah, so that, I mean, it's just, it's good, and it's cool, and I like it. So yeah, like overall, I'd probably give it like a 9 out of 10, and it would definitely make like my top 3 or 4 Sega Genesis, probably the second best Sega Genesis game, maybe first, I don't know, like Rocket Knight was pretty good, there was some bullshit in that, but like, but I still liked it, so, but this game, was really good, you know, good graphically, good musically. The gameplay was pretty good. It was reasonably difficult. I liked all of the levels. I liked how it was short and there wasn't like so many levels that I just wanted to like, oh, when is this gonna end? You know, it knew it got in, it got out. It felt like classic Castlevania, which is great, and I really enjoy that and appreciate that. There's not like a lot to say about it because it's kind of a short game, so it's going to be kind of a short review, you know? So that's it. Till next time, this has been JZNES saying keep it classic, like these Castlevania games, and play this one because it's the underrated one. And I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ out.